Moving forward, if you guys are following Sportageist on social media, you would have read that we have a surprise speaker for our next session. Our next session is going to be conducted by Richard Bickers, but we have a surprise speaker. As a software architect for HP, and he is a squash enthusiast who is married with 2 children. Richard will discuss how it is important that the squash community pulls together and utilizes everybody's strengths to deliver the best in class, personalized user experiences to re-energize our sport via SquashLevels. Richard, are you ready?
Hi, yeah, I think I am. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And see me? All right, splendid. Well, thank you. Well, thanks for inviting us along. It's great to be here. I'll go straight to the slides. So my plan is that we'll show slides at our end. So the first thing is to attempt that. This should be good. Had me thinking I was ready. There we go, and we go full screen. And aha, there we go, right at the beginning. Right, so first question, can you see our title slide? Right, oh. There we go, you can. I'm just checking, can you see? I think you can. Okay, right, well, we'll start. Thank you very much for inviting us along. So today, this is really all about how we feel we can re-energize squash through a combination of technology and collaboration. What we're going to talk about is, unsurprisingly, we'll start about what technology there is in squash and what the benefits of collaboration are. Then we'll talk about how SquashLevels can help, and then I'll introduce Jethro Binns of Squash Skills fame, who can talk about the power of partnerships as we've been partnering between SquashLevels and Squash Skills, and then more about how we can really engage these communities, the squash communities across the globe, to really get their energy levels back up. So first of all, let's take a look at the technology in squash. Interesting enough, if you look at it, if you go and talk to a single squash player and talk to them about the technology they use an awful lot of technology already. There's a whole list down the left-hand side there. Leagues, boxes, booking systems, mobile apps. They'll be interacting with membership systems, governing bodies, say England Squash. Websites, there are online coaching systems, there's good old social media. If you look at the list of technologies just for a single player, it's really quite a lot. And then you take a step back and say, okay, well, let's have a look at the technology in use for everyone, for the clubs, the regions, NGBs, players across the globe. There's a huge amount. If you go and look out to see what's available, there are an awful lot of systems out there. And so we're already really well served. We've got great choice. A lot of the systems are bespoke. They've been handcrafted for the exact need. There's a lot of them, most of them are really popular, and most are really very good. So we've got this really already this competitive landscape with a lot of really great functionality already available. On top of that, we've got these new technologies developing. We've just heard about interactive squash. There's video streaming, racketware, digitin's just been announced. It's coming out. There's a lot going on in terms of technology in the sport. So it's not really a technology problem. The question is, what is missing? And this is where collaboration comes in. All that technology should be working together. Most systems really work in isolation. That gives, from a user experience standpoint, they're really silos. So we need to connect them up. We need to create a player-centric ecosystem, which is all joined up. It's personalized, engaging, and above all, easy. And it's easily done really based on simple standards. What we need is a common player ID, a global rating system, and some simple APIs and links between those systems. That's really all we need. How can SquashLevels help? Well, SquashLevels is really like the collaborative glue. It was created in 2015 and really focused on playing level chart stats and rankings. A lot of people on this call will be familiar with it. It's always been collaborative and always been complementary. What we do is to connect rather than compete. We don't offer club, league, and event systems ourselves. What we do is we connect to those systems. We have 45 connections at the moment, actually 47, numbers going up all the time. And with those connections for these systems, we can provide consolidated and complete player histories. That's really important. If you go onto any system, it's usually got a section of your history. Well, we can combine those and consolidate them and provide complete player histories. And from there, we can provide the player level stats and rankings, personalized. And really important, I'll talk about this in a minute, it's the links back to the systems that provide us the data. And on top of that, we can also provide messaging as well. So there's particular messages we want to put out to represent those systems, well, we can do that as well. This is all a great enabler for a cross-system experience. Now here's an example of cross-system experience. It's really very simple. If you imagine you're on SquashLevels and you're looking at your result, imagine I'm Dave. I played this match against Kai, and it was a Northumbria County Close match. Doesn't matter too much, but with a single click from SquashLevels, I can go straight back to the tournament draw page. In this case, it's on League Master. That's a league system, a tournament system that was used to run this event. You can see that Dave Barnett, my name, is highlighted all the way down. It's completely personalized. I can see there's my result, and I've gone straight from SquashLevels straight to the league system itself, sorry, the tournament system. And if you look here, you'll see there's a head-to-head icon there. A single click from that icon takes you straight back to SquashLevels for the head-to-head analysis. And you can see there's a level chart for both players. And down here is the expected result, which has been calculated and estimated based on those levels. So within a couple of clicks, you've gone across these two system boundaries. Ever so easy. The whole thing is completely personalized, and the information you wanted is just at your fingertips. It's just a click away. And basically, if you use a player ID, you can click from anywhere to anywhere else in any of these systems and keep it personal. And once you do that, these systems are no longer silos. They are collaborating. The whole thing is personalized and easy. A few words on the algorithm. In order to go global, you need a really good global rating system. SquashLevels was always designed at that level. Just a few of the really important properties if you wanted to go global. First off, it really needs to be inclusive at all levels from beginner to pro. It has to include absolutely everybody. It really needs to be mathematical. For that, I divide that into two parts, really. One is relative. You need to be able to compare players. Once you've done that, you can really you can do the kind of thing we did on that previous slide. You can predict results, which is it's a lot of fun. Going to tournament and looking at a couple of players and look at what that expected result would be. That's half the fun, really. But it also needs to be absolute. The numbers really need to mean something. So if say I'm a 1,000 level player, then everyone knows what that means. Above all, it needs to be accurate. For that, we must use points. You can't just use games alone. It's okay for 3-2, maybe in the 3-1, but once you get to a 3-0, 3-0, you just can't tell. You just know that the one player played a lot better than the opponent. So what he does is he puts less effort in, he gives the guy a run around. So you've got these two quite different scenarios. You've got the better player, much less effort, playing at a lower level. The other guy playing it is absolute socks off. And if you don't model that, if you don't allow for that, and you dial it back in, then two things will happen. One is the better player gets dinged, his level goes down, he's not happy with that. So next time he mushes the opponent, which that's not the point at all. And or it just the levels will go wrong. He should not be coming down. He's better than that. So that's just one example of behavior modeling. There's lots and lots of cases, but it's all about modeling and predicting effort in the various different scenarios. So you have to do that in a system which takes points into account. So that's what we do with SquashLevels. Calibration. This is really important for going global. We calibrate across both space and time. Space is really geographical. Clubs, regions, countries. So if I'm a 1,000 player in, say, the UK, then I know that I'm around the same standard as a 1,000 level player in Australia, other side of the world, but the number is the same. This is how we kind of form this global community by having a consistent rating system. A couple of comments on time, though. This is great fun. If you can calibrate across time, and we can, and I'll tell you, it's hard. This is really hard part of the algorithm. You can do all sorts of wonderful things. And here's a really good example here. This, if you look at the timescale at the bottom here, you'll see it's a 20-year period. And we're looking at a couple of the greats. We've got Dave Palmer from the sort of the early 2000s up to Shibagi, Mohamed Shibagi, who's a top player now. These guys never really played in anger at the top of their game, but by looking at the level over time, we're calibrated across time, we're calibrated at all levels. It's a really interesting comparison, and it's great fun. You can go on a system and find all your favorite players back to about 2000 and see how they get on. Not just how good they got, but even the profile. How quickly did they go up and come down? It's fascinating stuff. But just to just bring you back down to earth, this is me. Not quite numbers like Dave Palmer and Shibagi, but this is me, and I got results go back to about 2007. I don't know if you can read that, but I got about 13 years of results there, and so I can see my whole playing career. Nothing magnificent, but I can see I was improved for a while, and I just beginning slowly declining, alas. But the results are there. My whole history there is consolidated from multiple systems, and that calibration across time is great fun. It's really good. Go back to where I was. The last point I'll make on the algorithm is it really needs to be dynamic. This is a tricky one because you don't want it going up and down like a yo-yo, but then again, you don't want it damped so that nothing really happens. You've got to get the balance right so that when you've played a game, you get your result and you get something out of it. If you played well, you go up a bit. If you didn't play so well, you go down a bit. And that's really where the motivation comes from. It's where the banter comes from. You're sitting in the bar, you've had your game, and all your mates are haranguing you for dropping 2 or 3%. Well, what you want to do, you want to go back out next week, probably go back out tomorrow, have another game, get back out there. It's all about motivation, driving participation. And that's exactly what this does. When people start to use SquashLevels and they get the results in, they want to go back on court, they just want to keep going. The algorithm is not straightforward. I've hinted at it. We've been working on it for years. There's a great deal behind all the modeling, particularly the behavioral stuff. If you want to know more, we do have an FAQ on the site. So go visit our website, squashlevels.com, find the FAQ and have a look. There's a lot more about the algorithm there. I'm going to take a step back here, the big picture. This, to me, if you want to remember one slide, remember this one. This is really about how we can collaborate globally. So I've talked about there's a lot of systems out there. They're really very good, a lot of good systems, but they all use their own player ID, so they're not really connected in any way. What we need to do globally is to use some sort of global player ID. We've got one. We've got Spin. So really, if every system could use Spin and map their own player ID to it, then the NGBs will use the same mapping. Now every system knows who every player is. Already we're connected. If those results are then sent to SquashLevels, then everyone gets a consolidated, complete player history. They get their global player ratings based on level. And these really important links here, I showed you the example just before, but these are the links that help the users just simply go from system to system, personalized in that sort of very simple user journey. And it's these links that really join everything up with the user ID. So this is what gives you the one system user experience. And of course, if you've got all the results on one system, then it's really easy to generate global metrics. And so you can look at participation rates by country, by region, by club, all sorts of metrics there by consolidating the results. None of the functionality that here, this is all the great functionality talked about here. Clubs, leagues, booking systems, all that. This is not replicated here at all. This is about gathering and consolidating results, and then allowing these really simple links back to the providers of this functionality. It's a very simple but effective ecosystem, and it's using existing technologies. Zena talked about not reinventing wheels. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Let's collaborate, not attempt to reinvent. And on top of that, this is actually a proven architecture. This is pretty much how it works in the UK. We don't use Spin. What we do is we use the English Squash membership number. And so all these systems here, at least a lot of systems in the UK, connect to the English Squash system. They have a membership system, and they send their results over to SquashLevels with that membership number. So everyone's talking the English Squash membership number, and for that reason, we can then communicate. And that's how the example I showed you just before, that's how it works. That's how we know who everybody is. It works really well in the UK, and it's really not that hard to expand it globally, but we do need a global player ID, and probably Spin seems, makes perfect sense as a way to go. So remember this slide. This to me is all about the global collaboration. SquashLevels continues to evolve. We did focus early on with the ratings algorithm. consolidating histories, and providing these all-important cross-system links. Now our focus is on engagement. We're providing a social network for squash, we've got feeds, trophies such as win streaks, skills and fitness testing, especially valuable at the moment where a lot of people can't even get on court. Jethro will talk about that in a minute. Leaderboards, match reports, and a really nice feature to be able to auto-create communities. Jethro will talk a bit about communities, but the system can automatically work out, which communities you're in. It could be a club, it could be a region, it could be your teammates. You can auto-create these two communities, and once you've got communities, then you've got this social network up and running already. So all of this offers great opportunities to partner. So the theme of partnership, I'll introduce Jethro now from Squash Skills to talk about our partnership between levels and skills. Thank you, Jethro.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. So I want to just talk about, well, the power of partnership and talk back over the last couple of years of some of the work that we've been doing here at Squash Skills in conjunction with SquashLevels, and then really focus on the community element. So if we take a step back to January last year, January 2019, Richard and I sat down in a cafe in Bristol and wanted to discuss the kind of obvious synergy that exists between the two organizations. So fundamentally, you've got SquashLevels, which measures your playing level, and then you've got Squash Skills, which tells you how to improve your level. So it became very obvious that we should explore this relationship and then consider playing to our own strengths. So initially, we looked at ways that we could link the two platforms together. And what we did back in 2019 was explore the idea of linking testing results and then trying to understand if we could create a derived level. So Richard, if I can come on to the next slide. You can see here on the left what we created within the Squash Skills testing section that now sits within SquashLevels is 10 squash tests and 8 fitness tests. And what we're doing with the squash test specifically was that we mapped people's test results to a playing level. So this meant that for the 10 different tests that people could take covering all elements of the game, they would be able to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And then we did some really cool stuff about calculating this derived level. So if you were able to hit 30 figure-of-8 volleys and 10 consecutive drives off the back, well, we could give you an indication of your playing level, which was a really nice start. And then more recently, we've evolved that to start serving more relevant content based on your test results from the Squash Skills library. So we're serving coaching content. If you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, there's no point in serving advanced coaching content to somebody who's just picked up a racket. So based on these scores, we were able to offer up advice based on the test results. So if somebody's got, been struggling with their back and drop, well, here's a coaching video that's relevant to your level and will help you improve your back and drop. Then we're able to go one step further again on top of that, and we're able to start serving solo practice sessions that were again relevant to that person's playing level. So this was just a really nice example of linking up the two systems, two best-in-class systems, and getting them working together to help serve the squash community better. So that was kind of where it all started, and then from there, hopefully some of you will have been on the new SquashLevels site. We've evolved it significantly over the last couple of years, and one of the things that's shone through is this idea of collaborating through communities and with communities. So SquashLevels always used to be about the individual. It was very much focused on the individual, about your players' results and where you sat in the rankings. Now, from there, what we've focused on doing is understanding how these different groups of players can fit together. So naturally, there will be groups of players that sit together. They might be teammates, they might be people who play in the same club within the same county, and then ultimately up at a national level as well. So people are bound together automatically through the results that come into the system. So we're able to create these micro communities within SquashLevels that allow people to interact with one another. And ultimately, we've now just created some admin capabilities for the people leading those communities, so whether that's clubs or counties, to start posting within their communities to the players who are in those subsequent communities. So essentially we've created a social network for squash players now, and we think it's going to be very powerful. We've added features such as notifications, behavioral emails when updates go in, and there's a number of other features that sit within these communities. And so we're really offering up an opportunity to engage with squash players whilst they're thinking about squash, while they're thinking about their level, while they're checking their latest match results, whilst they're inputting test results. So we think this is going to be a very powerful tool now as we look to help squash bounce back over the next couple of years. And we think it's a real opportunity for sponsors as well. So, within a club, so there's a first team sponsor in the club, not only are they necessarily reliant on a bit of branding in the squash club, what they can do now is get sponsorship space within these digital communities when all the players within the clubs are checking their own rankings or checking their results. So I'd just like to touch on some of the specific examples of some of the collaboration we've been doing with different organizations over the last few months. So the first one is the Northwest Counties Squash League, which is the biggest squash league in the world, around the Manchester area here in the UK. One of the features that we're working on is the Player of the Week and the Player of the Month. And now the really nice thing about this feature is that it's not specifically about winning matches. It's just about improvement. It's celebrating improvement. It's celebrating success through performance. So you could actually lose a match, but if you're playing way above your station, then you get rewarded. So you can see here in the example, Leighton played 22.7% above his expected level. Therefore, he becomes, the player of the month, and that's celebrated within that community. And then it would also go out within the feed to his followers. So then we're also developing features such as the Team of the Week and the Team of the Month. So this is kind of fairly bespoke to Northwest Counties at this stage, but they wanted to create the best team based on number ones, number twos, number threes, number fours, and number fives in the league within that period. So we're developing the Team of the Week and Team of the Month, and then ultimately Player of the Season. And one of the core aims of this project is working alongside Joel there, who's the social media manager, to create talking points for them to be able to screen grab elements from SquashLevels and post it up on their Facebook channels, celebrate these wins, just create more digital touch points for the Northwest Counties community. So we've given them the admin posting rights, so they can get news out about coaching events going on, tournaments that might be going on in the region. But the players in that community are getting those notifications, and then behavioral emails are going out. So just creating more digital touch points for the Northwest Counties as we go into the new season. They're going to be using SquashLevels significantly as part of the 21-22 season. So another nice example of collaboration is the work we've been doing with the PSA. So many of you will have seen the power ratings. Again, that was designed to create more talking points for the comms team to dive into the latest results. It's a form guide. It's not meant to replace rankings. It's just a bit of fun that talks about what level are people playing at within certain rounds of events. So yeah, again, just another digital touch point. We're offering PSA in-feed advertising. So we've got banner space, they've got YouTube video space. So again, just connecting with that squash audience when they're thinking about squash within the SquashLevels platform. There's also some other nice features such as the head-to-head match predictions. You're going into a semi-final of a tournament and you want to see what's the likelihood of Mohamed El Shabagi beating Ali Farag. Well, there's a SquashLevels prediction because the algorithm is in there and it makes those predictions ahead of time. So again, just making lots of talking points alongside the PSA. And then once again, we've offered them the admin posting capabilities so they can go in and get that news in front of their players. On to the next slide, please, Richard. So the British Army is a really interesting one again that we've just been working with through the lockdown period. Obviously, players haven't been able to get on court. So we've developed a range of new fitness challenges that can be taken off court. So the real aim of this partnership is just to engage that squash community that can't get on the squash court within the British Army, creating leaderboards. So there's now celebrations of the top times of people running their 5Ks. And these leaderboards can be changed every month, partnering up with sponsors to deliver prizes and raffles for everybody that competes and puts in a result, or again celebrating the wins at the top. We're also doing the official Army rankings, which is nice. They're using SquashLevels to so when they're picking teams and seeding tournaments, it's all coming down to the SquashLevels algorithm. Once again, they've got the admin posting capabilities as well, so they can communicate with their members specifically. Finally, the England Squash Partnership. We offer a membership benefit to England Squash. So members of England Squash get this NGB level access to SquashLevels. So it gives a 3-match history, club rankings, and that's just a benefit to being an England Squash member. So it's a nice tangible benefit for the national governing body. When players sign up to England Squash, they can immediately log into SquashLevels and they get this NGB premium membership. We also do some work with England Squash around membership activation. So as Richard alluded to earlier, we've got that connection, so we can understand who is an England Squash member, who is not activated, who is activated. And if players aren't activated, we can put that message in their feed and encourage them to do so, so they're reaping the rewards of the England Squash benefits. Finally, we did the World Squash Day competition last year with the Nick v Laura, which was the largest team match in the world, and that was a nice success with over 1,000 matches going into the system with people playing for either side. So these are just some examples of the way that we are collaborating with through the creation of communities within the SquashLevels platform. Richard, can I have the next slide, please? And that it's all about creating these digital touch points, creating talking points, and allowing communities of any size, from club, county, up to national government bodies, to brands, to different organisations throughout the squash world, to create these digital touch points and be able to engage with squash players whilst they're thinking about the sport. Every single club, region, nation in the world has the opportunity to create a community. Many of them will be auto-generated if the results are coming into the SquashLevels system. We obviously have big ambitions over the next couple of years to expand and see SquashLevels adopted in many different countries around the world. It's obviously nicely established here in the UK, but it's, as Richard alluded to, it's all about collaboration. We want to work with existing organisations, and really it's just about connecting up and working alongside those competition management tools to get results into the system so that we can all benefit. I think there's a significant opportunity for increasing sponsorship opportunities. We need more money flowing into the sport. If we can offer sponsors of these communities this great digital visibility within the communities whilst people think about squash, I think we all stand to win. And finally, I think the really nice thing about SquashLevels at the moment is that it's about celebrating improvement. It's not just winning. It gives people a tangible feel for their current playing level. It changes. It's all the time. It's truly dynamic. Whether you win or lose, you see where your level is going, and it's addictive. And I think we've got this real opportunity now through collaboration to do something really, really exciting over the next couple of years and help the sport. Richard, you're on mute.
Richard, you're still on mute. Can you please unmute yourself? Perfect.
Gosh, did someone put me on mute? I didn't do it on purpose. Okay, I beg your pardon. Okay, quick recap. So best-in-class technology is already available we don't need a massive reinventing wheel exercise here. There's a lot of really good stuff already out there. There's new technology being developed all the time. We just heard about some of that. It's a really good place to be. What we need to do is to work together, give the global squash community a unified experience. And to do that, we need to connect our systems together. We need a global player ID. Well, we have Spin. That would be the natural starting point. SquashLevels is naturally collaborative. It does have the best global rating algorithm, and it builds communities. So this all gives great opportunities for the many different parties in the squash world to work together, all for the benefit of the players and our sport in general. And I would just say collaborative technology is the way to go. I made that up, but I think it's a great phrase. So let's work together. Let's re-energize our sport. And if you'd like to know more, we will be at table 37 between the breaks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. I think we have time for a couple of questions. So we have a question from Peter, who is a board member of the Irish Squash Federation. He's saying, "Hi, Richard. How do you manage data protection and privacy?"
Gosh, well, that's a good question. So in order to sign up to all these systems, you have to read the T's and C's. The systems themselves protect their private data. You take the data that's on SquashLevels, the only data you can actually see is already in the public domain. So we're not there's nothing sort of private being published, and anyone who signs up will accept that it's okay. If they sign up to say a league system, that they will sign up to say it's okay for their results to come across the SquashLevels. So it's all very well protected. The data's looked after. It doesn't go anywhere. And the great thing about it is you can do so much of this without any personal data at all. If you really don't want to be seen, it can be a tricky bit, because if your results come in from a league system and you just don't want them to be on SquashLevels, then what you can do is either ask us, or we can basically withhold your name, and you just disappear. So yeah, it's all covered. It's a good question though.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we have two questions from Jonathan. The first one is, does it cost money to get a Spin ID? And the second one is, sorry, I lost it here. Is there a published API for SquashLevels?
Okay, right, I'll take them separately. So the Spin is a property of the World Squash Federation. We have been in discussions with them. At the moment, Spin, I believe, costs £15, and it gets you access to the international tournament. So that's fair enough. My view on this, in order for this to work, you need a free form. You need a free Spin, and that just gets you the number. If you then want to go into an international tournament, then yes, you need to pay £15. But I personally believe that what we need is a very, very easy way, a free way to access Spin. Get yourself your number, and from that number, all of this evolves. And the great thing is, once you've got such a thing, the membership system, say that the World Squash Federation could then record all the membership details. If you're a member of England Squash as well, that could be in there. So all of your membership information could all be in one place. So no, I think fundamentally the number should be free. But if services derive from it, you would probably need to pay for, and that then be a question for the World Squash Federation. But yeah, that's my hope. Gosh, what was the same question?
1 second. So the second one.
You can't ask me two questions. I forget the second one.
Is there a published API for SquashLevels?
Oh yes, there is. If you go onto the site, you'll find there is a link in the footer. It's a very, what I'll just describe it, it's a really simple API. You basically, the providing system just needs to provide a web page that is a text CSV output. So it's just commas, all the numbers. The result basically in numbers separated by commas. That's comma separated values as CSV. It's really simple. So every night, SquashLevels will basically pull that page, read in however many results have come in new, and then read them in. It's about the simplest possible interface. I call it an API, but really it's just a CSV. And it works really well. It's ever so easy to generate. The record we have so far is 3 hours for the developer of the source system. That was something a record. Typically, it takes about a day to be able to put this interface together. And from then on, you're connected. You can go back and get all historic results, and all of a sudden, all your history is on SquashLevels and calibrated. Yeah, it works really well.
Thank you so much. One more question. I can hear my echo. I don't know why. Okay. One more question. Does SquashLevels work on Android?
It does, because it's not an app. The way we've written it is it's a website. We've made it pretty dynamic, though. It's all written in JavaScript, but it runs dynamically on all the mobiles. So we created it once we did a rebranding back in we launched it 2020, just as the pandemic hit. But the new version of the website is very dynamic, and it's designed mobile first. So yes, it's a website, but if you run it on your phone, it behaves pretty much like an app. So yeah, we've not got different versions for different phones. It just works really well on all phones. Hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time and for your session. Will you be in the networking session after this conference?
Yes, we're at table 37. So once we're done with the session, I'll listen to Paul's update on Racketware, and then after that we'll head over to table 37. So yeah, just come and join us.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.